I became an entrepreneur to not have a boss, not to be a boss. This is something a friend said to me about 6 months into running his own business, and I think it's a nice example of how some entrepreneurs underestimate or maybe even overlook their role as an employer. My name is Johanna Kuske. I'm an organizational psychologist and I'm doing my PhD at the University of Cologne. In my research, I explore the role of entrepreneurs as employers by focusing on their actions to protect employee well-being. Effective means to protect employee well-being are so-called stress prevention practices. A central element to stress prevention are so-called psychosocial risk assessments, which are even legally mandatory within the European Union, especially in Germany since 2013, which include the systematic assessment of so-called psychosocial risk factors, which are basically any kind of sources for stress in the workplace. It could be a difficult conversation with a client, it could be a really noisy working environment, it could be a lot of work which is really difficult to plan, or just general uncertainty with your own contract. And by identifying these and actually realizing what is a problem for my type of employees, entrepreneurs can find different approaches to manage these stresses and improve the working condition to make us as psychosocial risk-free as possible. Of course, it's not always possible to get rid of all the psychosocial risks in the work environment, which is why we also propose that it's important to enable employees to cope with stress in the workplace. So when I'm dealing with a stressful situation, what can I do mentally to think of this situation as less stressful? What can I do maybe also afterwards? What helps me personally? Going for a run, going in the garden, playing with my children. There are different options for everyone. More intuitively, I find that entrepreneurs who have personal experience with mental health issues or professional knowledge in the field of stress prevention practices are more open to using stress prevention practices. More surprisingly, I find that entrepreneurs who describe themselves as having really close, personal, even family-like relationships with their employees tend to be a bit more difficult about using these kind of stress prevention practices. This is not because they don't care about their employee well-being, but rather because they are skeptical towards using something from an external provider or something that formalized when they actually prefer individual, flexible solutions. These are just a few examples of my qualitative study, which contributes to research in entrepreneurship by taking this entrepreneur as employer perspective. My research is also really informative for stakeholders and providers in the field of stress prevention, as it shows how to address entrepreneurs and design practices that actually suit the needs of entrepreneurs and employees. This way, my research can increase employee well-being in all kinds of firms.